everybody, welcome to Drum Talk TV Live. We've got Brian Tichy on board. Everybody wave to Brian and tell us where you're chiming in from. Brian's coming from a secret, undisclosed located bunker somewhere in the LA area, or is it Wyoming? And I'm in Globe, Arizona, up in the mountains about 100 miles east of Phoenix, 120 north of Tucson. Tell us where you're watching from and follow along and formulate some questions. We may take a few questions live, but first of all, Brian, how the F are you? F is for fun, of course.
What's that?
F is for fun, of course.
Yeah, we're all age friendly here.
Yeah.
Everything's cool. I'm home, and I'd like to say I'm home, chilling out, taking a little break, but which I thought I'd have these past couple weeks, but a couple other things popped up, so I am home. Not going anywhere, but have new stuff that I'm working on at home in this little break I had. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so I'm all good. Everything's cool.
Awesome. And you travel a lot, so it must be nice to be home, right?
Yeah, I love being home. I'll never complain about traveling to play music, and play drums. And, usually when you're traveling, you're hired to do that, or, you're doing something that ties, to your career. So I'll never complain, but yeah, I love being home. I love my space and privacy, and I like being away from people for long periods of time, and it's never long enough. That's nothing against people. It's just, I guess when you do work and do what we do, it's not like we, or what, performing musicians do involves a lot of people in different places. Some some you don't know, and it's a constant thing's going on. So I enjoy being home alone.
That's cool, and I can relate. It's one of the reasons that.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Home alone is cool, but I also have wife and kids, so I, of course, being with them and stuff. But I mean, compared to every day you're packing a suitcase and going downstairs and getting into a car to go to try to travel somewhere, all that. You know what I mean?
And I think a lot of people don't realize, Brian, that that's what you get paid for on tour. Not so much to play, but you get paid to have to travel and pack and unpack, be away from your family, and I think that's really what you're getting paid for.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get paid for both, because you can, if you say it like that, and then if you're not doing a good job on stage, and then
that's true.
So yeah, it's 50-50, but when you are comfy in your gig and you're moving along, yeah, most of it is during the rigors of travel and the burnout,
Yeah, that's cool. I want to ask you over something real quick. What's that? Are you talking to me? Oh, mute, please. Okay, so in your travels, I got to ask you this: is there a favorite place or a handful of favorite places that you look forward to, that you look for on the itinerary when you do go on tour, whether it's a specific country, city, venue, or whatever?
No.
No. Okay.
No. There's no particular place I look forward to. Although I wouldn't say that without including, I hadn't been to Australia in all the years of touring until I was with this band, the Dead Daisies, and we went down there a couple times over a couple years, and that was great because it's one place I'd heard a lot about and hadn't been there and had a great time and stuff. So. Yeah, when that stuff pops up, it's always cool. And there was a lot of Asian countries I hadn't really been to that I toured with Whitesnake. So that's always cool because you look back and you did stuff that you hadn't done. But overall, I strictly start with the drums and the music. Like, okay, we're going wherever I'm going. That's all good. That's where I'm supposed to be. That's what I'm doing. But I think all in all, while there's so many great countries and places, and if I had to pick some places I love that I've been to, I love Switzerland, and I've gone a couple times. I've played there and stuff. It's always great, but I love the country, and I've been past couple of years. I went to little vacations at the Matterhorn and staying in the city Zermatt, which is right at the bottom of Matterhorn. And that's, if somebody said, okay, you have to go on a vacation, that's where I'd go.
Oh, that's cool.
Ride some mountain bikes, and it's just a beautiful place, and everybody's mellow, and it's quiet, and it's just, I love outdoors and mountains and all that stuff. So yeah, that's great. But I'm not really psyched on big cities and all that stuff. It's just, it's just not me. But no, touring is great and traveling is great. It's all cool because you're tying into what you do. But I think I like touring just for the ease of it. Touring the U.S. the best. If you're like on, let's say, an amphitheater tour in the summer, it's probably safe to say you have a tour bus, you have ample room backstage, you're in, major cities or even smaller cities, whatever, but it's just the ease of it. You're, just being in the U.S., it's easy to get up because you're traveling. So when you're in other countries, every day is a little bit of there's extra errands to be run to figure, okay, you got to make sure you have the right adapters to charge your stuff. You got to, the currency is different, the language, which I'm used to and stuff. I'm just saying that adds to a lot, Yeah,
the extra elements.
Yeah, extra stuff. But no, I love, my favorite place to play would be arenas. If I had to really pick where I would, just the whole idea of an audience filling an arena and the sound inside arena is a private environment, and the light show could, totally is responsible for the vibe in the room and the acoustics in a setting like that. Although it might not be there's so much reverb and stuff. I love the idea of a rock concert and playing drums in an arena. Yes. More than an amphitheater because that's open doors, open air, and all that stuff. But touring the States in the summer and amphitheaters, man, it's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
That's cool. That whole arena thing is what sort of changed my mind from wanting to be one thing and then realizing, oh no, I want to be a musician, because my father took me to my very first concert. And of course, as you can imagine, it wasn't all downhill from here, but nothing topped it. My first concert was when Zeppelin played their Run at the Forum in 1977. So to have that arena experience, even as a spectator for the very first concert, it was just amazing. And just the vibe and the energy. And, as a 14-year-old kid, even, it was just like, I went from wanting to be an oceanographer like Jacques Cousteau to looking at them and by the third song going, oh, wait, you mean you can do this as a job? My mom was a little disappointed, but very supportive after that.
No, I'm right there with you. My dad took me to Madison Square Garden in 1979 to see Kiss, and that was, I already playing drums. I think I was in 6th grade, so I was playing. That was my favorite band. I was playing drums for a few years already, playing to the records nonstop, mostly into them more than even at that point any other rock bands I got into after that. But yeah, it blew me away. And every time I go to a concert as a kid, just walking into an arena. I mean, that first time, I still have those awesome, vivid memories of getting inside Madison Square Garden, walking around the hallways, looking for us, to get into the arena to find our seat, and hearing the opening band. I think we don't need to go down this road of details of who opened and blah blah blah. All that.
That's okay.
I think it might have been Nantucket they were called, but it might have been another band starting with an N that I'm forgetting the name of. But just hearing I was like, they must be playing a record. That sounds amazing. That's like, and I walk in and I see that drummer hitting the snare, and the sound is like that vision and that sound put together had never happened before. I was like, this is insane. And that was the opening band, and I could not believe how amazing it sounded. Just that whole world of arena rock, and then of course Kiss went on and blew my mind and all that stuff. But yeah, that was awesome. And just seeing it, just every time you go there, back in the day, I don't know if they allow it now, frisbees and stuff, but just
the beach balls and everything.
Frisbee before the show, I remember just seeing Rush, Van Halen, Aerosmith, all that stuff. Always loving that vibe inside an arena, which led up to, so you're talking seeing Kiss when I was in 6th grade and being back there. Now that I'm much older, and it wasn't, in the span of my life, it actually wasn't that many years, but back then it was from 6th grade up to being 23 years old. So what is that, like, 13 years later or something?
Yeah.
Back in Madison Square Garden, playing with guitar virtuoso Vinnie Moore and opening up for Rush. And 2 of the shows of the 10 with Rush, they were all arenas on the East Coast, but the 3rd and 4th show were at Madison Square Garden. And just to be there doing that, I'm a huge Rush fan, and be able to set up my Tama swing stars that I had since high school that I got because Neil played Tama. I'd set up on his stage in front of his drums on Rush's stage at Madison Square Garden. Just even say it now, still like that's it was so heavy. And the nights before we played Philly Spectrum, and that was the first time I'd ever been able to be in an arena in the middle of the afternoon with nobody there. I mean, I just walked in like, this is insane. I mean, I loved it. I went up to the top corner of the arena with my camera and took some pictures of just like a bare arena. I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I'd sit there and, we'd do our sound check or whatever, and then take my recording Walkman and sit in the audience and record Rush's sound check. So somewhere on some cassettes, I have some pretty cool Rush sound checks,
I bet. Which tour was that again? What year?
1991 Roll the Bones tour.
Yeah, okay. Because I've seen every Rush tour except for one since 1978, and again, one of my favorite bands too. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So that was just amazing, and to add to it, on stage at Madison Square Garden, one of those two shows, Neil came on the stage and I was talking to him. We had met, and he was very nice, and the whole band was so nice. And I've told the story before, but it's damn cool stories. Tell it again.
Go ahead, sure.
And so he had the single kick at the time, and for some reason I asked him something about his bass drum, and his reply was, whatever, and he goes, have you tried him yet? And I said, no. He's like, yeah, have you tried my drums? I'm like, I don't. That's that question alone is hilarious. Like,
like as if he presumed you got up there and just messed around on his kit, right?
Yeah, like, oh, nobody's here. There's this drum, so I'll just go sit down and we're drummers. It's cool, right?
I know 2112. I'm gonna check this shit out.
So I said no, and he goes, oh, go ahead. And he just stood in front of the drums, chuckling when I do fills. I'd be like, he'd be like, and they'd spun the drums. Well, I'm just saying, there's probably not too many people that have gotten a chance to do that, and that was just, to be that kid who first heard, Tom Sawyer in 7th grade. I had heard Rush, but wasn't aware of him, because you talk now and you go, well, how did you not know that was that band or that band? I'm like, because it was all new to me. Everything was new. You're in 6th grade. You can just go on the internet and learn all this stuff quickly. You're just hearing the radio and going, I remember Limelight came on and back to back with Billy Squier's In the Dark. And the DJ, after those songs, I heard him back to back, was like, this is amazing. Who are these? What bands are these? And that was Billy Squier, In the Dark, Billy Squier. And I thought they were meaning the song Limelight. Like, I wasn't sure yet, So anyways, I got both those records and stuff. But just to think back then, when you get turned on to a band so heavily, because when you hear something like Rush, Tom Sawyer, Neil Peart, all. It's pretty heavy. It's especially that record, Moving Pictures, which is my favorite. That and Exit Stage Left. But so anyways, to get into them, then just go like fast forward years later and go, and it's not only me. There's tons of people that have these amazing stories and stuff. It's just cool to look back on that stuff and go, man, that was it was just going down the road. You have no idea what's going to happen, but those are good things.
They're great stories, and for those of you just joining us, we're here with Brian Tichy live on the Drum Talk TV Facebook page, unless you're watching it on the archived post. And we're talking about drumming and music and experiences. And I'm going to check real quick to see where people are watching from. Then we got a few more questions. So we've got everywhere from Chicago to Canada. To more Canada. Well, a lot of Canada here, probably because we mentioned Rush.
I'll give you some Rush background music while you're doing that. A little La Vida.
Yeah. Perfect. So.
Not exactly in tune, but that's right. I don't want to keep that out of tune. It's
one of my favorite songs too. Just love playing that. And people, we're going to take a few questions as well. So go ahead and ask a couple questions. Brian, you've played with so many amazing acts, and it must be weird yet so gratifying and humbling and rewarding to play with a lot of the bands that I'm sure you grew up listening to. Everybody from Billy Idol to Ozzy to Whitesnake. I mean, your list goes on and on. You've also got Slash's Snakepit, Sass Jordan, Glenn Hughes. It goes on and on. My question is, with all these, we'll call them seasoned, sometimes marinated, but seasoned players that have been around for decades, What are some of the biggest things you picked up from a few of these people that really helped you with your career, whether it had to do with your playing or behavior or how to conduct yourself on tour, or what are some things that kind of just you soaked up growing up through all this in your career?
Well, I had a good answer right when you're in the middle of asking the question, and then I thought of a couple other things. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you're really close to these people that have done amazing things. I mean, you're working for them. So I think that's the biggest thing. It's you're now, you grew up on whatever band it is, and you're in that band playing their music that affected you, or you were a fan of. You learned how to play drums to. You just dug the tunes, whatever it is. And you look at these artists and go, man, here we are in the same room, and I'm working for you and all this stuff. But you had a dream, you had goals and visions, and they're happening. I mean, you like what a guy like whether it's Billy Idol, or David Coverdale, or whatever, anybody I've played with, when they wake up and go, okay, I want to tour this year and I want to work. There's a whole bunch of people employed. There's a bunch of people. Without that decision made by that guy, a lot of people aren't working, and so many things come from that. So, meaning, each gig you do or each situation you're in, you learn from, or if you do a good job there, your name, can travel on. You build your resume and all that stuff. But that's what it is. So I always respect the leader of the band, whoever it is, whoever's hired me and all that stuff, and I don't think about myself first, because I know that'll come with the territory. You right. First play, and I just keep my mouth shut, man. It's like, people get a little too comfy, and I've probably been in those situations where you're, I've been playing this band a while. I can voice my opinion this way, or say this, or do this, but it's like, man, we really are all replaceable. You might be doing a great job, but that doesn't mean somebody else can't. A la, Brian Johnson and Sammy Hagar. I'm just saying, there are situations, huge, big bands, and they can't go on without this guy, right? And they have, whether it's Keith Moon or the list goes on and on. But not that we want that to happen. We love our bands to stay as they are. But those, you have to respect the position you're in. And I've always thought that. I've never tried, abused the privilege or tried to take advantage of the situation. And I think the main thing I've learned is, just looking at these people going, decades have gone by, you're still sustaining a great career. You've written great music. You've done your business right. You haven't made, decisions that have screwed all this great success up, so it's something to learn from, because it just gives you a chance to say that they were the same as me, whatever. We were all the same. We all just grew up wanting to play an instrument, loving music, and going for it. And there's no book you can read or school you can go to that tells you how to get there. So you just, talk to these guys, or listen to them, or see how they act, or see how they are, and learn from it. I think that's the biggest thing. Really, is just learning from these people that have inspired you or influenced you or have sustained awesome careers.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you for that. I think there's some great lessons in experience, and that's a big part of the show. Whether it's experience of how to play something on the drums, or like you just said, working for people and soaking it all in and knowing your place in the equation and all of that. So that's great insight. Thank you. Let's see who we've got that might have a question. And for the record, Scott A. O'Farrell says Brian rules. So there you go.
Thank you.
In case Brian didn't know that. Let's see. Let's see if there's a question. Here we go. I think you kind of answered this, but I'm going to read this question out of courtesy anyways. Kaylin Provo says, what was your first thought when you saw Neil Peart play, and what is your favorite Rush album? I think you mentioned Moving Pictures is your favorite and Exit Stage Left, right?
Yep. Yeah.
When you first visually saw Neil play, what was your reaction and response to that?
I think the first place was, MTV, those videos back then, I think that was, there was a few Moving Pictures singles that had videos Tom Sawyer, Limelight, Vital Signs. So you just got that, which I love those videos because it shows them in the studio tracking and working on the record, and I love the being able to see all that stuff go on in those videos. And but I think I was just looking at the big picture of Rush and like, oh, Neil's amazing and what a beautiful kid, and he's such a great drummer and all this stuff. It was just like a whole big package thought. But seeing him play live was was awesome. One time I saw him when I was a kid in like 8th grade or something on the Stage Left tour. But I could speak a lot better about it now because I've watched him a lot more and maybe studied stuff. And now with all these years gone by, I realize, man, he was really so fine-tuned in his delivery and so well thought out in his own world. And I think we all take it for granted. We take for granted the stuff he was coming up with on those records and these signature fills that there's probably a huge list of these things that he did that were his signatures. As soon as you go ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
Okay, as soon as you go start a roll with a little flurry of
yeah.
I just love that alone. Like what he could have just went around the drums. That would have been good enough. He would have just
right.
around that kit. But he put the flurry in at the top, the little 30-second flurry. Yeah. And then he's got little combinations of those. Sometimes it's not actually sometimes it's which flips it to the left if you start on the right. So there's like it's this theme of start off with this blast, like a blast of double time notes compared to what's coming up. It makes it even more intense. I mean, I go on and on and on. But he's very. I love how he thought about drums, and I love how he constructed a solo. I still think it's the best drum solo I've ever heard. Pound for pound, and I love other guys' drum solos. There's tons of them. I mean, anybody from Tommy Aldridge to Max Roach, or Louis Belson. There's so many great drum solos. But I just think Neil, where he was at, and what he does, and how he plays, his articulation on the snare drum. It was mostly single strokes for the most part, and the way he used singles and dynamics and what he called the free floating snare drum part of his solo. It's like he just came up with these great themes, but he hooked non-drummers and drummers at the same time, and it's tons of sound sources, and everything is so definitive. Every part. It's like I can't say enough great things about him, because to play a kit like that too, and also consider, if you think about it, there were no hi-hat attachments for the hi-hat. So all these guys, not just Neil, but everybody back then, had the hi-hat off further than any of us would ever play it now.
To make it fit.
And I'm like, so, it's like an extra however many inches away from the snare. So that's this extra reach for all these things.
Yeah.
And that just learning, that alone, just that portion of the kit is more difficult to play than if you have it now attached to the kick drum, have the hi-hat with the left kick. And it's just like, I just love how well defined all his stuff is, and how focused it is, and it's so unique. It's it's his sound. You got Carl Palmer, Billy Cobham, Terry Bozzio, they all have their own sounds, but within all these drummers doing all these amazing things, he was more of the rock side of things. I mean, it's progressive, but man, and his kit sounded so good. I just thought it got better and better sounding, peaking at movie pictures, Stage Left, signals right in there. His kit was just, and his tuning, and how much he thought about the pitch of the concert toms there, and then that 12-inch double-headed tom was cranked up, choked so high, it sounds like a timbali, and it just, when he uses that, the fills, it sounds like he's jumping up to the 10-inch concert. Throws you off. As a kid, I thought he was going all the way up there. That's how I practiced on my little rototoms. But just these little creative inventions, little creative things he was putting in that made his sound. Why didn't he use cymbals? So why is that 16 crash? Because it doesn't take up as much space and get in the way of like other stuff he's doing. It's just more detail to every part of the kit.
Exactly. And a big thing about his solos, and not that he's the only drummer to do this, but they are compositions. It's not just, okay, drum solo time, do everything I know as fast as I can. It's a composition with all these different sections. It's a journey that you go on. And
Yep.
and something triggered a memory when you mentioned about his unique style of composing fills. I remember from I guess from Hemispheres on, when I started collecting the albums, every time a new Rush album came out, it was like, okay, what song is going to have that fill? There's always that fill, whether it's in Camera Eye or, or in La Vila. There's always one song that's got that fill, and then you lift the needle, put it back, lift the needle, put. For you boys and girls, this music stuff used to come on these flat vinyl things played with a needle, and I remember lifting the needle, until, okay, I think I got it in my head, run downstairs to the garage, play it, oh no, I didn't get it right, run all the way back upstairs, lift the needle, lift the needle, lift the needle.
Well, that's it. Fortunately, because that sounds super tedious to run up and down, back and forth.
Yeah.
Since after getting my first drum kit, 4th grade Christmas, I had a little fake kit from Sears, the year before in 3rd grade, which I did. The bass drum was 7, so it was like bing, bing when you would hit it. So I just tapped my foot next to it, and I there was one cymbal and a snare and 2, all the heads, the little paper heads broke, but I played my Kiss records and so the next year I got the real kit and a Leedy kit, which is still the snare drum from, and it's one of my main snares. But I remember the kit was in the basement, and I'd have to go upstairs and turn my dad's stereo on, and he had speakers that came down through the windows, like cables to the speakers downstairs, and I'd practice whatever I was doing at the time, and that was really tedious. And then soon after that, I don't know, a month or so, I brought them up to the 2nd floor into my bedroom, and I had my record player, and from that point on is how I existed. That's probably where I spent most of my time, behind the drums, the record player right there, and all my records there. So it was like, yeah. So it was to my right. And it was just like, that was it, man. So I was constantly, and playing with headphones. That was another thing. I don't, I always ask people, they're students and stuff when I'm teaching, how do you practice? And if they, cranking up, I guess everybody's on earbuds and all that stuff now, so maybe it's not as big of a thing. But a lot of people just play with speakers cranked up. I'm like, how do you play along with the cymbals, the high end and the volume of the drums? You get, with this, that's a mess. Because you put the headphones over your ears, it dulls the drums to me, and I didn't know how to tune drums back then, so they already sounded better like that. I just cranked it almost to the point of distortion that my probably crappy record player and headphones, but I could hear it, and then that gives you the ability to practice, and you're excited to play the music you love, and you can pay attention to all your details and your execution and locking into the drums, which it took me. I didn't think about it, but man, what a great exercise to do. Go into your own world, and it was the world of your favorite bands, your favorite drummers, and everything they did. Okay, here it comes. I got to nail that, but you can hear it loud and clear. So I'd have little different practice techniques. I'd either try to nail, whether it was like an AC/DC record, play it like Phil, like get the hi-hat sound right, do the crash it, like don't overplay, because he's playing this stuff in one of the biggest bands ever, because it's the right stuff to play. And then you go into like Rush, and you would, try and nail all that, or just whatever band, Ozzy, Foreigner, Van Halen. You try and nail all this stuff, but then sometimes I would have little practice things where I would overplay, and I would consciously try to do a lot more and see if I could still come out right. But improv, like, if the drummer was going to do more, what would work? Okay, like if Neil Peart was playing in AC/DC, okay, it would work. It wouldn't probably ever really sound right, but just a way to test yourself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But all of that was with the headphones on, and
I was going to say the first few years I played before we moved to the upstairs downstairs thing, and before I had a radio out there, I from 7 years old I did the same thing. I put on the headphones, and back then, music wasn't segregated by genre really that much. There was this station in LA, 93 KHJ on AM, and you'd hear a Steppenwolf song, and then Neil Diamond, then Barbra Streisand, then Led Zeppelin, then The Fifth Dimension, and then, it was like, so as a kid learning, I didn't know I was learning different genres, so to
Yeah.
speak, because it was all just mushed together, which I thought was really neat. I just played to whatever came on, and of course, radio wasn't much different then in the aspect that they played the same stuff over and over. So I was able to learn all these sort of genres and idiosyncrasies of these different styles just by putting on headphones, like I say, just playing for an hour or two.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Different thing in radio then.
I definitely played the radio too, because you would just, turn your dial into your, 5 rock stations. And oh, cool! Just jump into that song and go.
Right.
And yeah, you're not realizing like all the different styles and of drummers and music that you're going for. And that's why I also think that tied in. And I figured it would be this way just for all musicians. Like when let's just stick with drummers. Okay. I love, whatever, Alex Van Halen. So I got to, he doesn't keep tight Stuart Copeland, hi-hats going ever. He's a little sloshier and his approach is a little washier and all that. And you play to the Police, you got a different approach to that. Everything. And that's how I practiced also trying to, emulate those sounds. So when you grow up and you're a pro drummer, I've always looked at it like, okay, if I'm going to play with Billy Idol versus Whitesnake, I'm still going to play as best I can, but I'm not going to play them. I'm not going to approach them the same. You know what I mean? And I figured, it's all rock drums to me. It's just like all our favorite rock bands are rock bands, whether it's the Beatles or Zeppelin. I'd put my Beatles records on and practice, or I'd put the Long Run or Hotel California on, and because those, I love the Eagles, but I'm saying those were his bands. I borrow his records and try to play, those shoes sounding like, like Henley, and I'd try to play Come Together like Ringo or Let It Be, or it was all just because I love the music, and I think that just only helped. You get an audition for this band or that band. It's like, okay, they you don't want to do, John Bonham fills or pure fills in this band, it's not going to really work. There's, you know what I mean? And I always, if you're a good rock drummer, you can. And there's a lot of guys out there that can do that for sure. But there's also some guys that are maybe a little more limited. And I'm like, maybe I'm a little curious and wonder why, because, when we're all growing up, that's what we do, just play our favorite, whether it's play Maiden and Priest and over Metallica all the way over to to the Beatles.
I'm glad you're saying this, because I've actually had people argue this fact when I bring it up, that when you learn to emulate other players, it gives you more tools in your toolbox. Whereas I've heard people argue that point, saying, no, if you're going to learn to play like all these other players, you'll never develop your own style. Huh? That just does not compute whatsoever. The more tools you have in the toolbox, the more you can develop your own style or serve the purpose, like you're saying, is so that you don't play Steely Dan as John Bonham or Neil Peart. I just don't. But everyone thinks differently, so what can you say?
But like Eddie Van Halen learned all his Eric Clapton licks and got an amazing feel. I mean, he's amazing. Whatever he was going to do was going to be amazing. But he learned Clapton, which Clapton's one of the best, with an amazing feel. The whole, so if you learn, and then you turn that, turn the fire up on that, and you go into the mindset of Eddie Van Halen, and then you go into all the stuff he was doing on top of that. That blend is what probably made him stand out from all the imitators of Eddie that never really got deep into the thick blues feel, the groove and vibrato, and just owning a single note rather than it's all tapping and speed picking and tricks and
not going deep to where that came from.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same with drums, it's I always thought that was really important, was to, and you're gonna, I guess, are you going to get your own style? I think you're just starting. When you start playing, you're just playing you're playing because you love it, and you're going to either only do one thing, I guess, maybe, but usually style comes from learning a bunch of stuff from a bunch of people. You're a bunch of, let's stick with drummers you're into. I love when Stuart Copeland does this. And I love when Alex Van Halen does this, and I love when Bruford does this, and Bozy does that. Well, You know what I mean? So you learn all this stuff, and it's not going to be. I don't know if you can be that influenced by all that stuff and not get your own style, because then you come back and like all of us, I always talk about playing the music and stuff, but then there were times you turn the music off and you start improvising and going for licks. So I remember making up my own licks. That was also another fun thing, was trying to come up, like, because I'd also go, if these guys, if Neil came up with that and Bonham came up with that and this guy, okay, I was too young to go, what's the history? Where'd it come from? But I would just go, okay, that's his. Well, I want something of mine too. And, so at least you try. I'm not saying that you ever get there, but you're eventually trying to go, well, and back then we're not really watching instructional videos or YouTube or it's all your ears. For the 90% of it is your ears, whether you're learning instruments. You can go buy some transcription books, but I mean, I don't know. You're in the rock drumming. It's the sound. It's the vibe.
Yeah, exactly. In the field. Yeah.
You sit on your drums and go, okay, the first time you learn diddle-da-goom, which I say that and I call it the roach because Carmine Peace told me, I go, Carmine, where did diddle-da-goom from? Decatatum, where did they come from? Right, left, right, kick drum, the 4-stroke off sounding thing. Everybody's bucket of fish, right? And somebody needs credit for that. It's still one of my favorite things on drums. That and hi-hat scoops,
And it's Max Roach for sure. You watch old Max Roach solos and you think he's playing what we know as John Bonham, but it's the opposite. It's amazing.
And there you go. And and so I go, where did that come from? I don't know if is it some old big band drummer? Is it Dixieland? Is it where does it come from? And he's like, Max Roach. And what is it called? It's something Sid. Oh, something. The title of the song is not.
Yeah.
Something. It's not the drum walls or waltzes. It's something Sid. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And Big Sid. I forget, but you can see it on YouTube, and it's diddle-go det, diddle-go det, diddle-go get.
Exactly. We post it from time to time, and it's that exact lick right there, and you go, "Oh wow, that sounds familiar."
That's what Carmen said. I go, well, let's call it the Roach. Let's give him credit. It's the Roach. Diddle-go. So tell students it's the Roach. It sounds a little goofy because when you take it out of context of Max Roach's name, the Roach, what? The cockroach. Why don't we call it the fly? Why don't we call it the wasp? But so anyways, you're learning that stuff, and you go, okay, what can I do? Like, I hear Bonham doing these flurries. I hear this guy do that, and this guy, and I don't know how they're exactly doing it, but you start making up your own little licks. And I've, to this day, some of the stuff that I thought I'd throw away in high school, it's a high school thing. I went to Berkeley. I learned how to do fusion licks, and I learned more involved ghost notes. And
Right.
So my mindset after Berkeley was like, I want to show that I could do more than the rock high school stuff. I was
be more technical.
Yeah, and then it's over the past few years, even like, okay, Neil's mostly single strokes. But people love hearing fast singles, starting a snare drum, a solo off on the snare drum, just with a flurry and accents, and then building off it. It's always exciting, you know what I mean? If it can get boring, it's just how you use it and stuff. But I can't do singles only because I learned how to do patafluffle, and so I have to use, I got to show you that I know my chops. I got more chops than the average drummer guy, but then I'm like, yeah, but it's cool. Some things are just cool. So there's a lot of stuff that I made up on my own in high school, little figures or whatever, even some stupid crossover stuff I never thought I'd do. Not the cool double one that I've seen, Virgil do on his flurry on the double bass. The grouping of 5-1. There's just a basic triplet. I never thought I'd do that, but I'm like, from the audience, when you're doing whatever and you bust into that, and then you go, it just looks cool. And if you can do it fast and clean,
it sounds good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that I like these little stories because they're just fun to tell. I remember because also I'm self-taught on rock drums. I took private lessons since fourth grade. Took a couple years off in high school and then finished up. Went back to my guy Bob Cook and studied with him in junior and senior year. But that was all reading rudiments, basic jazz stuff on the kit, but it was all like, I never put enough time. I did it and I got the job done and I learned my stuff, but I never pushed myself in lessons. I just did it. But at home, and we didn't do rock. We didn't do rock drums. We just did all this the jazz reading rudiments, books and all, and which was great. I mean, it was all cool. But rock stuff, nobody taught me anything. It was records and just He's in your head. And so I'm sitting there one day, and I went, you know, just a triplet, you know, accenting, single stroke triplet. And I went downstairs to show my dad, because I was like, that's cool. Like, it flips to a figure eight thing. Like, because I'm talking like 5th grade, whatever, 4th grade. Yeah. So I go downstairs. My dad's, you know, really talented and can play all these instruments, and he can sit down on a kit and keep time. Like, so I go, Dad, check this out. He's sitting there, and I go, and he just looks at me and goes, yeah. Like, and I go, okay, that's not that special. I guess just if my dad can do it, he's not a drummer, and I'm sitting there practicing, whatever. So I was like, well, I have to be able to do more than that. So I just, okay. So get speed up, and then I was like, I just started crossing over onto the snare. Dad, and I was like, okay, my dad's not gonna be able to do this. You know what I mean? And that just led to, you know, so in a way, he unknowingly pushed me to do more. Yeah. You know, because I just assumed, okay, if I guess everybody can do that on drums, that's nothing special. I got to get to the, you know, and then when I teach, it's like, I get, you know, guys that can play rock drums and stuff, and I get to some of these basic things, and I go, how about just keeping, you know, time with your left hand, with your left foot, and, you know, I mean, it's polyrhythm and stuff, but I'm saying somewhere in there, you break that down to a simple 4/4 lick, or polyrhythm has started, you know, but it ends in 4. So if you just keep that, you know, forget that 4 and just go, I mean, you get through that once, that, you know, that 3 feel, oh, wow, that is, okay, it's twisting and turning, but it's working out, you know, and I just always kind of thought that we, you know, that drummers, that was kind of the base, some of these things are the basics, not the polyrhythms, just even doing, you know, triplet accents and stuff. Right. But, you know, I spent a lot of time like in that little zone, which I love, because I don't have it that much anymore. I don't know how many of us do. I would love to get to a point where, you know, money to me is just money in the bank, pay the bills and get that stuff out of the way. Yeah. And so you can have time to be creative. That's all it is. You know? And to be able to go, okay, I don't have to worry about all this stuff today. I want to be creative. I want to get better, you know, and everybody's got their own levels of discipline and their own work ethics and stuff. And, you know, some people are, you know, live within their means, and they're single and they can just do it. You know, the other people have families and they're balanced and everything. You know, so it's like, you just got to find the time. But back then, man, when you would put those headphones on or get behind a kit, you know, really that hour right there of focus, it was complete focus.
Yeah, totally immersed in that world. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Before we go, thanks for sharing all that. Before we go, let's look at a couple questions. I see. Oops.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Like all these stuff, you know, influences. You're learning a B.B. King lick, you know, you're going to have to mimic that lick. You're going to have to give it that fast vibrato, or Angus Young or whatever. The faster, you know. But he does it so great. He shakes it fast, but it's still just right in tune. Yeah. But if you're gonna learn like you know, Lynch or Zakk Wylde or John Sykes vibrato, you know, they're gonna scream and there's way different ways of doing vibrato. So I'm thinking, if you're a guitar player influenced by this blues guy and that metal guy, and this, you know, you're gonna try to mimic those sounds, you know, and that comes through in your playing, you know. So that's kind of the same as like playing a reggae Copeland vibe versus you know, a Clive Burr, Iron Maiden style group. You know what I mean? You're going to push it. So I just always thought, you know, that would be important that, you know, you do grab those influences. You don't ignore that stuff. You try and, you know, imitate that stuff and emulate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Scott A. O'Farrell is saying, Brian is probably tired of me asking him, but I'd be curious to know if he plans on bringing the Bonzo Bash back to Jersey.
There's no plans right now. Okay. We've done it, and it's always been a great time. It's just a lot of work, and you know, I was really excited to push for it when we brought it there. I think we did it, man, like maybe 4 years.
That was 4 years ago. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we did 4 years in a row. We might.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Maybe 3. I don't know, 13, 14, 15, or something like that. It was always great. It's just a lot of work. And then I go, oh, we can't do one show because what about the drummers that have gigs that night? We got to book a few in the area because it's like New York, Jersey. You can play a few places, nobody can still get there. And, you know, and I was just thinking about the big picture of like the guys that might not be able to be there on a Friday but could come Saturday, you know. So it's it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but you know, there's
a lot of moving parts for that.
Yeah, it's just that time dedicated to that is it's just a lot of time.
Yeah. Hey, another question.
Time, you know. Although I do like it, and we've done it, and it's been since 2010 when the first show was put on. You know, so it's a lot of years, and but right now it's like if we do it at NAMM, you know, it's the most sensible. It's January, it's the beginning of the year. You know, a lot of people like I'm usually home. Yeah, but you got to start the prep. I mean, we're already talking about it like it's September, and you could securing the venues, and there's always you know so many things behind the scenes that happen to that take up the time. The show itself, you know, just the you know, I mean, I'm hands on. I reach out to all the drummers and I you know that out of respect to all of us as drummers and anybody taking their time to say, yeah, I'll be there. I'll do this song and all that stuff. I keep everybody as well informed. I get back to people as quick as I can because I'm like, if you're interested and you want to commit to playing a song and being in the show, well, I owe you the respect of getting back to you and being informative and answering any questions and making things work, you know. So, but man, you add all that up on top of all the other stuff that's outside of the immediate drummer, Brian and the drummers and the band and the actual music and the show. It's just a lot of time, you know.
Yeah. 2 quick questions before we go. Debbie Flood, big Drum Talk TV fan, is asking if you have any clinics planned on the East Coast.
A lot of East Coast stuff going on.
Yeah.
No, I don't. You know, every time I get a little time and I go, I want to get some clinics going. It's so much prep time. Like the one thing I'm doing this year, which I'm going at the end of. Well, I won't be at the East Coast, but I'll be in Poland if you want to go there.
That's pretty far east.
Yeah, I'm at the end of October. It's the Poland Drum Fest. They did it a few years ago, and it's like a 3-day thing. You bring a band and you do a couple clinics and then a nightly performance, three of those. So it's a lot of fun because it's more than just show up. And I've done that where I've flown to Turkey and did one drum clinic day and home the next day. It's a burnout. It's fun. It's cool and stuff. I had a great time, but it's that travel to be there, jet lag, everything, and then flip back, But this Poland thing, that's the only thing. But that's because when I knew I had more time this year, I think I reached out to him because the guy who runs it, he asked me last year when I couldn't, so I said I'm available this year. So, but yeah, it takes many months to get that stuff together, and to do clinic tours. I see the drummers doing it. It's like, it's great, but it takes a lot of focus and energy, and you have to get all your companies behind you. Somebody's got to book it, routing the budget, and it's totally cool, but it does take a lot of time, and to do that, you have to okay, today I'm starting. I'm writing my companies. I want to do clinics. And then you go, okay, if it's February, we got to start working now for summer or fall to get this stuff together. And what happens if I get this, book these clinics, and all of a sudden, then I'm in
comes up or something.
Yeah, because I'm not in a nonstop touring band right now. I would hate to put all that time into it and either have to blow it off or not be able to take advantage of some other options because of that and commit that, but lose a whole bunch of work that could have set up many years into the future. Yeah. So, cool. But right now, no clinics. But it's not. The East Coast is the East Coast is kind of tight. You go to Jersey, you go to New York, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island. It's all right there, Massachusetts. So it's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of me doing it.
Yeah, it's like a whole nother job.
It is. It's a job. It's a bunch of.
One last question before we go, and when we sign off, hang on the line for a moment for me, okay?
Sure.
One last question is from Michael J. DeGenny. He's asking, what age did you start playing or taking lessons in music?
I started taking private lessons 4th grade. So what was I?
10.
I think I was 9 because I was always, my birthday was in August. I was always turning the next year after everybody was already that age. So yeah. 4th grade, September, and it was because I started playing in 3rd grade on this kit my parents got me from Sears, and it was not a real drum set. It was just go in the Sears catalog, see the little kids drum set. They got me one of those. they said, because I've trashed the heads and the thing was, pretty much trashed, they said, if you take private lessons and do well, we'll get you a kit for Christmas. It was like, that was the deal. So September, 4th grade. So I took lessons for those few months and it was fine. So Christmas Day, I got my lead kit, which was like, the most killer Christmas, ever.
Absolutely. Cool.
But yeah, so fourth grade, studying privately, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, I didn't. 11th and 12th, I went back and studied with my teacher. And so,
cool.
But it's also important to say, I didn't learn rock drums with my teacher. He was a big band, jazzier guy. He was great. I mean, he was great. Like, he was that guy. He was that 70s.
Yeah.
Like, he was great hands, chops, technique, but he was really more of a big band jazz drummer. So we never really did rock stuff, but I was home however many hours a week doing that on my own.
Very cool. Brian, thanks so much for joining us, taking time. Like I said, I'll talk to you for a moment when we sign off. And everybody, thank you for joining Brian Tichy and myself, Dan Shinder, here on Drum Talk TV. Over 1 million fans strong. What's wrong with these people? Just kidding. We really appreciate you following what we do. And sign up for our newsletter so you can find out about stuff like this way ahead of time. We got some other really great announcements and some great artists joining us next month, including Rich Redman, Rod Morgenstein, a couple others that can't sneak out yet, but if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll find out, as well as a killer online drumming competition that we're starting next month. So thanks, everybody, for joining. And Brian, again, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I'll talk to you in a moment.
All right. Thanks,
guys. Thanks, everybody. Where's the button? Wrong button.